Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Jason Snyder on the line, and he's a co-founder over at Super Truth. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thanks for having me.
All right, great to have you here. And for everybody listening, just so you know, this is part of our Milken Global Conference coverage series where we bring on speakers, panelists, attendees, and guests of the Milken Global Conference here in Beverly Hills. And Jason, correct me if I'm off on this. You were one of the speakers at the conference this year. Is that right?
That's right, Adam. At Milken, I spoke on a panel called AI and the Economy, Transformation and Disruption. The focus of what we spoke about and what I spoke about was on how AI isn't just changing what we do, it's reshaping how we decide what's worth doing in the first place. So I challenge the room to think about, what happens beyond automation and efficiency, to consider authorship, consent, and the long-term value of human judgment in an increasingly predictive world.
Wow. Have you been to, before, I want to go further into this topic, but I'm just curious on the conference overall. Have you been to the conference before? Is this the first time attending? What's been your experience?
It was my first time attending, but I've worked with Milken in the past. I've participated in a number of their surveys and research and have worked with them, and then they invited me to speak this year.
Ah, that's wonderful. And I always like to hear the opinion of a first-time attendee. I know you know the conference, or the Institute as a whole, you've been working with it, but what do you think about the conference, man? It's kind of spectacular in my opinion.
I don't think there's anything quite like it in the world. It's a really unique experience to connect with people, at all levels, across all verticals that are working towards a common goal of making the world a better, more creative, more positive place. So yeah. It was a pretty special experience.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on this one. And let's switch up the topic a bit here. I do want to go a little bit further into your work, but just, I guess, to open up the conversation. Everyone's talking about AI and jobs. Talk to me about that, and what's your stance on that, AI and jobs? And is that even asking the right question, by the way? Or is there a deeper threat?
Yeah, so I think that is maybe not necessarily the best question, because I think really most businesses are treating AI like some kind of plug-in, and people don't really understand the impact that it's going to be having on their business. AI is not really staying in a tool belt. It's becoming the substrate. It's becoming the business itself. It's becoming the infrastructure. It's the operating system of how decisions are being made, how products evolved, and how trust is being brokered. And when AI becomes the infrastructure, truth becomes a design decision. And if we don't get that design right, we're losing the ability to tell signal from simulation. And it's really much bigger than jobs. It's about the impact that it's having on culture and the fidelity of reality.
That's interesting. Can you give an example of what that looks like? And it could be a real use case, a fictional use case, whatever. But when you talk about being infrastructure, what could go wrong? And I'm completely okay with the opposite end of that question too, which is what could go right.
Sure. I mean, the reality is that, you have to imagine, I guess, in a real world example, like a nurse applying for a new role in a major hospital system. And the hiring platform uses AI to screen resumes and flag profiles and recommend compensation bands. But the model was trained on historical data that's riddled with gender bias and outdated performance proxies, right? So she's qualified, but she's flagged as a low match. And the system says that she's too much of a job hopper, which it doesn't know is, she moved often because she followed a spouse who maybe had been in the military, right? So she never gets the interview, right? So the impact on reality is that the hiring manager never even sees her resume. So as far as the dashboard is concerned, she didn't exist. And reality, has been quietly overwritten by prediction. And that's where we are, because that's the kicker. No one can audit how that decision was made. The model was pre-trained, the data was third party, and the pipeline has no provenance layer. So you can't really fix what you can't trace. So that's not just bias, that's infrastructure failure. And when AI becomes an operating system for reality, then there's no authorship, there's no consent, there's no traceability. And what you end up with isn't just bad outcomes, you get synthetic fairness built on broken ground.
So what are some, knowing that this is first off, great example. Like, I think that's one I definitely understand. I'm sure anybody can understand you like that, that you may argue, somebody may argue that, okay, but this is, a certain subset or certain percentage of people. But like, if you're part of that group, right, like that's kind of messed up, right? Like, she's not getting that job. She's not part of the system by structure. Nobody's ever going to even pay attention. She's off the grid, right? Like, just period.
Correct.
So taking it, I guess, a step further, understanding that that's going to be, I don't know if I should say possibility or a reality, whichever we want. I don't know if I have a clear opinion on that yet, but understanding at the very least a threat, like what are some things that, we should be considering?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing we need to consider is to make sure that we put friction into everything we do, because AI likes to smooth out reality, right? So, the things that we need to consider about AI right now specifically is, really who's writing the rules that the models follow and who's benefiting. Because models don't just learn data, they inherit values. And whose values are they inheriting? And if you're in a business, then you have to think, can your business trace where its AI decisions come from? Because if there's no provenance, then there's no accountability and there's no defense when things go wrong. So, you have to ask yourself, are you optimizing for outcomes or are you abdicating decision making? Because if you're using AI to get to speed without scrutiny leads to systems with huge blind spots inside of them. So what happens then when your data changes, but the model keeps acting like it didn't? Because stale data, like you could change your address, you could change your phone number, your job, or your email address. That data is invisible until it becomes a problem. And in a really scary model, what if it becomes a misdiagnosis, for you or a family member, right? Or what if a market collapses as a result of that? So the question is, are you building AI into your business or are you building your business on AI? And the difference determines if you control the machine or if the machine is controlling you.
So I guess, in looking at this, boy, this is fun talking to you about this, by the way, Jason, because you got my head going. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But then, me as a small business owner, we're a little over 30 of us here. We're not iHeartRadio with 4,000 plus, employees. We're still at I would argue, we have AI. We have many tools that allow us to do what we do at this point, and I won't say we're the most advanced, but we're pretty advanced. We stay on the cutting edge of a lot of different things in our space, I should say, in podcasting and otherwise. But what's a small business owner to do when they're still trying to catch up and think about and just stay ahead of what they're, the present day, like whether it's in their business directly or whether it's voting, whether it's just the education piece of how they should be looking at these things. Like what is a small business owner to do?
Look, having tools is great. And for small business owners like you, Adam, AI can absolutely unlock leverage. It can write copy. It can automate workflows. It can do things that used to require teams of people. But here's the thing. Tools aren't strategy, and speed isn't value. So if your tools aren't connected, if your data isn't structured, if your AI has no memory of why it's doing what it's doing, then you've just built like a high-speed treadmill. And that's not really a business advantage. So the to-do isn't to use more AI. It's to know what your AI is doing and make sure it's doing it for you and not the other way around, right? That's the difference between being advanced or being automated.
Yeah, that's great. What industries are you following right now within? I mean, AI obviously is a given, like that's your specialty, but what industries are you following that you work in primarily? Or are you agnostic? Like, talk a little bit more about your work.
Sure. Healthcare and wellness, because I'm working on driving transformation in precision diagnostics, biomarker testing, personalized health, infrastructure. And I'm doing that through, the companies that we run and own, which are both I'm Aware and SuperTruth, SuperTruth being the parent company. And so our focus is on making health data actionable, sovereign, and AI ready while respecting consent and context. So as part of that, I look a lot at biocomputing and life sciences. We have what we call the biosignal compute core at SuperTruth. So we're helping to shape the future of biological computing for storage, inference, and medical modeling. And, what we want to do is expand the lifespan and fidelity of biological systems to compute more like nature. So they're more fluid, more adaptive, and more resilient. And another area that we're really, focused on and interested in is actually in commerce enablement and experiential marketing. My background has been working in the marketing technology stack for a number of years. And, I've been helping to redefine how AI-powered brand experience and retail intelligence and commerce infrastructure work. And that's really part of that whole flywheel. I mean, that's the go-to-market strategy. So building systems where human attention, data, and trust drive value, not just impressions or transactions.
Fantastic. Jason, how do people follow your work? How do they connect? How do they keep the dialogue going and follow what you're up to?
Sure. Our website is supertruth, supertruth.ai, and you can reach out to us there and see what we're doing. Of course, we're on LinkedIn, and that is the best way to kind of get in touch, is through LinkedIn. That's where personally I share most of my writing, thinking, and provocations. I also write, for Forbes. I publish several times a month on Forbes, so you can find me there.
Perfect. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so you can just click on the link and head right on over and check out some of Jason's work. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show each and every day, bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Jason, this has really been a pleasure. I love the way you break down these ideas. I like your use case examples that make it so that everybody can understand what's going on and are better educated. So again, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, and it was great fun.